So first of all, thank you so much for all of you sticking around for this session because I know it's lunchtime. But trust me, I think it's going to be worth it because it might give you a few tips on how you look at your lunch or how you eat your lunch. So sitting with me here on stage, I have a French biochemist, New York Times bestselling author, as well as someone who has 6 million followers on LinkedIn. So
on LinkedIn, you said?
Sorry. Oh, yes.
On Instagram.
On Instagram, right. You need to get your LinkedIn game up. Okay. So this is Jessie Inchauspé, and she's best known for her simple glucose hacks. Jessie, what would you like to ask the audience today?
So I love starting these things with a question. So I want all of you to think about your health right now. Do you have cravings, chronic fatigue, hormonal issues? Do you wish you slept a little bit better than you currently do? So raise your hand if you could maybe feel a little bit better than you currently do in your health in your life. Yeah, I think all hands should go up. Yes, okay, fantastic. So you're gonna wanna listen to this.
Okay, perfect. Now, it's all about glucose, and I think we need to start with the fundamentals. What exactly is glucose? It's not just everything that's sugary. And why has it almost been trendy to talk about glucose these days?
Well, it might be trendy now, but really glucose has been running the show for millions of years. But how I like to explain glucose. So glucose is your body's favorite source of energy. So can everybody go like this for me, please? Yes, this is an interactive session. Thank you so much. So when you go like this, the muscles in your fingers are using glucose to contract. And all of your brains right now, all of your hearts are using glucose to listen to us, to keep you alive. So every cell in your body needs this molecule. And as human beings, Olivia, the way that we give glucose to our body is simply by eating foods that contain glucose. And these foods are called carbohydrates. And I like putting them in two categories. So we have starches, that's like potatoes, pasta, rice, bread. Those contain glucose. And sweet foods, that's anything from an apple juice to triple fudge chocolate brownie. All of those foods contain glucose. And giving our bodies a little bit of glucose is fantastic. But too much glucose causes issues. Do you have any plants at home? Do you try to keep plants alive, like little trees?
Not successfully.
So I'm very bad at keeping plants alive because I know that plants need a little bit of water, but inevitably I always give them too much water and they drown and die. And the human body is kind of the same. A bit of glucose is fantastic, but too much causes issues. And today, most of us have too much glucose in our bodies, and this can create all sorts of symptoms, from cravings to chronic fatigue to brain fog to type 2 diabetes. And today, 1 billion people in the world have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. So it's a massive public health issue. It's not just about weight loss and looking good in your swimsuit. It's a fundamental challenge. We need to manage our glucose levels as a population.
You didn't wake up one day thinking, glucose is really, really important to my health and driving this fascination. Actually, take us back to 2019. That was the first time you actually managed or measured your glucose levels. What did it tell you then?
So in 2019, I was working in Silicon Valley at 23andMe, the genetics company, and I had been struggling for almost 10 years with a lot of mental health issues. Depression, depersonalization, anxiety, since I broke my back when I was 19 years old, and I had found no solutions to help me. And then the universe decided to put glucose on my path by giving me the opportunity to try a glucose monitor. And somebody at 23andMe decided to do a little pilot study internally and got 5 glucose monitors and asked if any employees wanted to try them. I know you're making that face, but it's true, it's so random. And I raised my hand because I'm just a curious person, and it changed my life because I saw that big glucose spikes could trigger episodes of depersonalization. Depersonalization is an awful mental health condition where you feel like a stranger in your own body. Everything becomes two-dimensional, a lot of brain fog. It's just awful, awful. And it was the first time in almost 10 years that I found a connection between something I was doing and this mental health issue that I was struggling with. And then I looked into the studies and I saw I'm not alone. 80% of people who don't have diabetes still have glucose spikes, so big increases in glucose after eating on a daily basis, and they could lead to lots of symptoms. And so first, really for my own interest, I looked through all the science, I changed the way I was eating to keep my glucose levels balanced, and I started feeling so much better. And then I thought, hey, 23andMe made genetics accessible and, mainstream. Maybe I can do the same thing with glucose. And here we are.
So you not only changed your own health, you also turned this into a flourishing business, not only with books, but also now as an Instagram influencer. What is your method in a nutshell?
I hate that word, by the way.
I know,
Influencer.
I'm sorry. I take that back. You're an Instagram
Science
personality.
Science communicator. So what was the question, sorry?
What's your method in a nutshell?
What's my method? My method is I'm extremely scientifically rigorous, and I think about what are all the channels through which I can make this science exciting and fun. And I love this word sexy because we have a problem today telling somebody to do something to prevent diabetes, trying to help people get into this idea of preventative health is not very easy, and it's a little bit boring. And so I try to turn scientific facts and scientific discoveries into something that is hyper-shareable online, and that actually gets people started. The 0 to 1 is the hardest phase to crack. So that's what I do, scientific rigor, and then I try to use my marketing brain to figure out how can I make this very dry scientific study into something online that millions of people can understand.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty now. It's not about what we eat, it's about how we eat. Walk us through that.
So to keep your glucose level steady, I could tell you it's simple, just don't eat carbs. Don't eat sugar, never eat chocolate, never eat anything fun. But I don't want to live like that. Like, I want chocolate cake on my birthday. So I had to figure out scientifically, are there things I can do to eat all the delicious sugars and carbs that I love with less impact on my glucose? I wanted to eat the spaghetti. I wanted to eat sugar every day. And so in the science, I found these, I call them hacks. They're really nutritional discoveries made by scientists across the world that teach us super simple stuff. So for example, a scientist 5 years ago discovered that when you're faced with a meal, the order in which you eat the elements of that meal matters hugely for the glucose impact of that meal. If you eat the foods on your plate in the correct order, you can reduce the glucose spike of that meal by up to 75%, almost erasing entirely the spike. The correct order is vegetables first, then proteins and fats, and then the carbs. So why does this work? Because vegetables contain, Olivia, pop quiz, what do vegetables contain? Fiber, yes.
I know.
Yes, she knows. So fiber, and when we eat fiber first during a meal, it creates a protective mesh in our intestine that then slows down how quickly the glucose arrives into our bloodstream. And so through my research, I found 10 of these so-called hacks, and I put them in my book, Glucose Revolution. They've changed my life, and they've helped millions of people improve their physical and mental health without dieting, without restricting, just by understanding the physiology of the human body. And I just want to say, public service announcement, you don't have to always eat the vegetables, then the proteins and the fats, then the carbs. Just keep in mind, when it's easy, can you start your meals with a little side salad or a little portion of broccoli, right? So we have the scientific fact and then the reality of the situation of being a human being, but we can learn so much from the science.
Everyone's going to rush out of this room now, heading for the salad buffet. So I want to be a little bit critical here. Everyone's body responds differently. Some in this room have dealt with diabetes their whole life. Some others haven't. So how relevant is your advice? How relevant are your hacks to the broader population?
This is what's super important to understand. These hacks work in everyone, no matter your age, no matter your medical situation, because they have to do with the biological reality of the human body. You know, barring specific, very rare conditions, we all have the same enzymes that are breaking down food. We all have the same digestive system. So these hacks work for everyone, and that's why it's so amazing. And depending on your current health struggle, whether it's brain fog or acne or PCOS or diabetes, they can still help your body come back into balance, because you cannot have a healthy physical and mental health if your glucose levels are on a roller coaster all day.
Some other critics also believe that the methods are a bit oversimplified. I mean, all our health conditions are so varied. Is it possible just to take 10 hacks and change our health?
To me, this is not a criticism. To me, this is like a praise. It's simple and it works. I think that's amazing. we can tell somebody, eat better, exercise more, do this complicated meal plan, etc., but does that actually stick? For somebody to change their behavior for the long term, they need simple tools like brush your teeth, wear sunscreen, drink some water, stuff you can keep in your back pocket and reach to whenever it's possible. So I'm happy that it's simple because it actually sticks with people for life, and that's the point.
Why do you think your message has in particular resonated with so many people in relation to public health campaigns that have maybe struggled when it comes to efforts with prevention, disease, and etc.? Why do you think your message has resonated more?
Because I'm obsessed with behavior change. Like, I get what it's like to want to improve your health and to feel like it's this massive mountain in front of you, or if you need to work out more, transform your diet, and so it blocks you. And I have empathy for that person because I was that person. So I understand that in order for something to work, it needs to grab your attention, like eat your veggies first. It needs to be easy to do today, and it needs to have an immediate impact. You have to feel the effect of the steadier glucose on your mood, on your energy levels. And so I think just going down to that granular piece of advice, you know, Atomic Habits, right? Yeah. The very famous book about how to change your habits. It's all about small little habits you can implement every single day that are going to get you on that on-ramp to better health. So I'm sick of seeing these broad guidelines. I'm sick of doctors saying, just eat better, exercise more. That doesn't fucking work. It's so boring. Like, I want to see the Instagram graph, and I want Nancy, you know, on her toilet scrolling to be like, hey, I'm going to try having my broccolis first during my next meal. That works. So I don't know. I understand how to meet people where they are.
So tell us, what do we misunderstand about glucose or misunderstand about sugar these days, more broadly?
The biggest misconception is that it only matters if you have diabetes, and that's a little bit like saying that brushing your teeth only matters if you have cavities. It's like, no. You got to brush your teeth even if you don't have cavities. It's going to help you have better breath and prevent cavities, right? And have better hygiene overall. So it matters for every single one of us, even children. We have to teach them these hacks. And this brings me to another important hack, which is kind of the hardest for most people, and it's to have a savory breakfast. So the biggest mistake we make is to think that sugar or something sweet in the morning is going to give us energy. And we've been manipulated by decades of marketing messages that say breakfast cereal, orange juice are going to give you energy in the morning. They don't give you energy. You know what they give you? They give you dopamine. When we eat something sweet, our brain lights up with dopamine, which is the pleasure molecule, so we feel sort of awake, but we're not actually awake. We're just stimulated, and then we crash. Internally, when you have a sweet breakfast, like an orange juice, some bread, and some jam, your little cells and the little factories in your cells called mitochondria, they don't like it. And I'm French, and they go on strike, and so I get them. Like, your mitochondria go on strike when you give them too much sugar, and they can't make energy efficiently anymore. And the studies show this. When you have a big glucose spike, there's less energy available to your body, scientifically, biologically. So anyway, having a savory breakfast built around protein, like eggs, meat, fish, dairy, tofu, protein powder, that is the single most important thing to do to balance your glucose for the entire day. And that changes lives immediately.
I mean, you're from Paris, so there's no croissant or pain au chocolat for you in the morning?
Well, I mean, so.
There's always a but here.
Okay, there's like a sub-trick to that trick. So, savory breakfast, and I invented something. It's called the breakfast dessert. So if you really want something sweet at breakfast, you have it after the savory food. So if you're in Paris, come say hi if you're in Paris, and you want a pain au chocolat, have it after your omelette. Because when something arrives at the end of a meal, that sugar at the end of a meal arrives much more slowly in your bloodstream. That same pain au chocolat on an empty stomach would create a massive spike, but after an omelette, you barely see a spike on a glucose monitor. So you can eat whatever you want. It's all about learning these little tricks.
I like how you're making us feel a little less guilty about our daily choices. So we are seeing right now on the technology front, there is this wave of continuous glucose monitoring systems. It's becoming a bit of a revolution right now. Explain to us how they work. Is it accessible for people like me and people in the audience?
Has anybody tried a glucose monitor before, by a show of hands? 10 people? Okay, 20 people? So glucose monitors were invented for people with diabetes. They're a medical device, and they sit on the back of your arm. They look like a little coin, a white coin, and you apply them with an applicator that pierces your skin and puts a little fiber inside your skin to measure your glucose levels. It doesn't hurt, it stays in for 2 weeks, and it sends to your phone continuously your glucose data. So you see the spikes and the dips, and that's what taught me so much when I tried it in 2019. So they're pretty easy to get. I think in Poland you might be able to get the Freestyle Libre, which is the Abbott one at the pharmacy. My favorite one is called Stello, but for now it's only available in the US. And they're pretty affordable. It's less than $100 for a 2-week sensor. If you're interested, make sure, and this is not a plug, like make sure you read my first book, Glucose Revolution, so you understand what you're seeing, because it can be a little bit overwhelming. And also, you don't need to wear one. You can use the glucose hacks that I share and feel better. Seeing the data is cool, but it's not needed. And to your question on the revolution, it's incredible. It's a new way to understand how your food is impacting the inside of your body. I think it's even just doing it for 2 weeks is so eye-opening.
I'm imagining some people in the audience might think, look, I feel good right now, I eat decent, I train. Is that really a necessity, having another gadget on my body?
No. No, it's not. You don't need to wear one. Just do it if you feel like it.
If I may follow up, do you think that wearable health tech is moving away from something just for people with health conditions and is being used more as a preventative tool right now? Where do you see that heading? I
mean, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. Look at the Oura Ring, look at Whoop, look at glucose monitors. It totally is. And depending on your personality, they can be a huge help, or they can kind of make you stressed out. Like, I know for me, the Oura Ring, if I have a little boy, he's 1 year old, and if my Oura Ring tells me, you didn't sleep very good last night, I'm like, thanks, I know. So I'm not really wearing one right now. Each person has to figure out what motivates them and what helps them stay on track and have healthy habits.
When was the last time you measured your glucose levels?
Oh, I wear a glucose monitor almost constantly. So I think my last one, I took it off like 10 days ago.
Wow, okay. So if we take a look forward, there's been a lot of discussion right now about health and longevity. And longevity at the end of the day is about not just living longer, but living with more vitality. Where do you see glucose fitting into that picture?
I think glucose is set to become a basic measurement of your overall health. We're seeing so much data and so much studies showing us things like if you have higher glucose levels in your 40s, even if you don't have diabetes, you're more likely to get Alzheimer's disease later on. We know that big glucose spikes and big glucose drops increase your cravings. We know they can impact your hormonal system. Glucose is a bit like cholesterol. It's a very basic marker, but that can tell you a lot about where you're headed in your health journey. So the thing is, it's always been here. It's always something that has run the show. Glucose comes to us from plants. Plants make glucose with photosynthesis, and animals eat that. So it's just been around. We just now have tools to see it, but it's been running the show forever. So I think it's a wonderful new piece of data in the toolkit. Glucose monitors are very helpful in the right context, and they can give you a lot of insight and also help cut through the noise of marketing messages, like know that granola bar is not actually good for you because look at that spike.
Have all your friends and your family and your closer circle, have they all been taking on board your hacks?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad has been the last adopter. I think a couple of years ago, he was like, hey, Jessie, so I finally read your book. I tried the thing and it really works. I'm like, thanks, Dad. It's only been 5 years.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
But dads are always like that.
So you've built a following online. You've written 2 books. Now
3 books now.
Yeah, 3 books. And now you travel and you're imparting your words of wisdom to the audience. What's next for you?
I have this hope that in my lifetime I'll be able to see a meaningful decrease in the prevalence of type 2 diabetes in the world. So I try to keep that as my North Star. Instagram is one thing, but truly what I want is to have a public health impact and to help this disease go in reverse, because it's just growing and growing and growing. And a lot of people with diabetes today, they they want to eat better, they try to eat better, but they're being confused by so much marketing, so much food marketing. And I hope to soon be able to be in conversations where we talk about policy and what kind of things we could do to help governments, to help populations have better information about health. Because today, we see the GLP-1 situation. And to me, GLP-1 is amazing. It helps a lot of people, but think about the situation we're in. GLP-1s are helping people reduce their hunger so that they don't eat the food around them because the food around them is so toxic that it's making them obese and sick. Imagine 1 second if the water in your tap was so toxic that we had to invent a medicine to make you less thirsty instead of fixing the problem of the toxic water. That's what we're doing with GLP-1s. It's a Band-Aid. It's not fixing the issue. So I hope we're going to be able to solve education around health. I hope we're going to be able to improve the food that is available today in the food industry, in supermarkets, and I hope we're going to be able to give people real easy atomic tools like savory breakfast, like veggies at the beginning of a meal, like moving for 10 minutes after you eat, like understanding that it's not because something comes from fruit that it's good for you. A fruit smoothie, a fruit juice, dried fruit, that's dessert, that's not healthy, it's so high in sugar. So we have a lot of work to do, but I hope we're going in that direction.
So let's start with this room then. We have a couple of hundred people in this audience. We want to spend the last minute and a half with something that is more like advice-driven, let's say. So one habit to add. What would you say to the audience? One habit.
So I told you about the savory breakfast. I told you about the veggies at the beginning of your meal. I'm going to tell you about vinegar. Vinegar contains a molecule called acetic acid, and there have been dozens of clinical trials on vinegar that shows that if you have 1 tablespoon of vinegar in a big glass of water before you eat something very high in carbs, like a pizza or a chocolate cake, it can reduce the glucose spike of those carbs by up to 30%. Because acetic acid slows down the breakdown of carbs into glucose. And then my last hack for probably a lot of you who maybe are sitting down throughout the day in your work. So everybody please put your feet flat on the floor, okay? Everybody put their feet flat on the floor. Come on, activities. Thank you so much. Okay, we got it. Now I want you to just lift your heels. You're doing a calf push-up, okay? A calf raise. This is very helpful in reducing the glucose spike of a meal because your calf muscle is very good at soaking up glucose from your bloodstream. So if you're at a business lunch, if you're at work and you've just had a big meal, you can't go for a walk, you can't go to the gym. Just do this for 10 minutes under your desk, and this will reduce the glucose spike of your meal. It's not much, but it can help. Small atomic habits every day. You do this for 10 minutes every day of your life. When you're 85 years old, you're going to be in a better situation than if you had not done this.
Okay, Jessie.
It's not me, it's science.
I'm getting ready for my salad. I'm going to ask them for extra vinegar, and I'm going to make sure to do my exercise.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yes.
And then I'm going to monitor my glucose levels and keep it
Great.
posted. Ladies and gentlemen, Jessie Inchauspé, please put your hands together for her. Thank you so much.
Thank you.